review of just a few problems. I went through the Unit 2, Test 1, and Test 2, and found the problems that were the toughest ones that, by statistically, the ones most likely we missed. So I'm going to take like a minute a question and just zip through these, and then prepare you for your retake tomorrow if you're taking a retake. And then for either one of the tests, and then we'll let you work. Okay, so click and close real quick. Let's just have a very quick look at this. So I would claim that this is probably one of the easiest questions you could ever get, if you just understand how to interpret the question. Okay, what are they asking here? They want to know if, based on the graph, f of -5 is what? Well, -5 is the input, so that's the x value, right? So what this is really saying is, if x equals -5, f of -5 is just the y value that goes with that. Right? You want the output that goes with that input. Inputs are x's, outputs are y's, right? So all we have to do is just go over here to x equals -5, and we have to just find the point on the graph that has an x coordinate of -5. And the y coordinate of that point is the y value of the function, right? That's all a graph does. A graph just links the x's and the y's, the inputs and the outputs. And so what do we get then? If we do that, we've got the point with x coordinate -5. What's the y coordinate? -2. And so that's our answer. That's all we want, right? How about this one? This is just the opposite, right? This is saying if y is -10, what's x, right? So y equals -10, x equals what? Well, we'll do the same thing. We'll just look on the graph at all the places where y is equal to -10. How many places are there? 2. Yeah, we get one here and one there. So what are the coordinates of this one? -4, -10, and then this one. And so our two solutions this time are -4, +4. That's it. Okay? No, I just want, it's just two separate answers, separated by column. Okay? So write the linear equation in standard form. So there on the test, there were supposed to be some really easy questions asking you to just write down some formulas. So let's write through those. Let's write those down once real quick, just to refresh our memories on that. So what is the slope formula? Slope formula is, we're solving for m, right? It's a formula for calculating m. So m equals,
Or x2 minus x1.
okay, but it'd be y2 minus y1, right? On the top. And on the bottom we get, there it is. Okay, just kidding. Slope formula. What's the point slope form of a line? Y equals mx plus b. Okay, escape. What is the, or sorry, that's slope intercept form. What am I doing? Going backwards. Slope intercept, and why is that slope intercept form instead of point slope form? Because what's the information you're inputting? Slope and y-intercept, right? So slope-intercept form. Now, what about point-slope form? Good, so y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And once again, just think about the stuff you're inputting. Here you're inputting a slope and a y-intercept, right? Here you're inputting a point, so that's x1, y1. And a slope, right? And then last one. Standard form. That's the 4 formulas from Unit 2, okay? So then how about if we want to put this into standard form? So we're trying to put this into the form ax plus by equals c. A has to be what? Positive. And then a, b, and c, we need to divide. If we can divide a number into all three of those, we need to do that. So we can reduce those as far as we make those the smallest integers possible. Okay? So there's no common factor other than 1. So what do we do first then? Well, let's do that last. We're going to end up doing that, aren't we? But to get it into this form, I got to get the x on the other side, don't I? So I'm going to have to subtract the x term to this side. So I'm going to get a negative 8x minus 20y equals negative 6. Okay, and then I'm going to do it in 2 separate steps. You're right, we really could do it in 1 step. I'm going to make, so step 1 is we got the terms in the right places. Step 2 is we're going to distribute a negative through to make a positive. So that's going to become an 8x plus 20y equals 6. And then finally, now can we divide all those numbers by anything? 2. Good. So we'll divide all those numbers by 2. And then we end up with 4x plus 10y equals 3. Okay? And we could have maybe simplified that a little bit. We could have just divided each one here by negative 2 and gone right to there if we wanted to. Okay? Make sense? Okay? Write an equation in slope-intercept form for this line. So we need a slope-intercept. We need, we're going to have to start off with point slope, aren't we? Right? We need a slope, though, first. So what's our slope going to be? You guys already told me that the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's plug in some numbers. What's that give us? 4. Okay, good. There's y2 minus y1. So 4 minus 12 over minus negative 4 is plus 4. So that's going to give us negative 8 on top, 2 on the bottom. So what's our slope? Okay, so the slope is negative 4. We can use either one of those points to plug into point slope form, right? So we got point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. x1 and y1 just need to be the coordinates of a point on the line. Well, these are a little bit smaller numbers, so let's use those, how about? Right, so we'll get y minus 4 equals m, which is negative 4, times x minus negative 2. So x plus 2. And then, what do? Put it in slope-intercept. Distribute the negative 4. So y minus 4 equals negative 4x minus 8. Last step. Add 4. Y equals negative 4x minus 4. There it is. It's slope-intercept. Okay? All right, what about this? Super easy. I'm giving you 2 lines in slope-intercept form. What's the slope of the top line? What's the slope of the bottom line? Okay, so what would have to be true for the lines to be parallel? The slopes would be what? Same. So they would have equal slopes if they were parallel. What if they were perpendicular? Opposite. Reciprocals. Are either of those true? No. So it's neither. Okay? Okay, what about this one? If we want to find, super easy, if we want to find the x and y intercepts, think what we do. The x-intercept, all you got to remember here is that when we're finding the x-intercept, what has to be true there is y has to be equal to 0. Right? So what do? I just set y equal to 0 and solve for x. If I take my original equation and set y equal to 0, I just get negative 3x equals 8. Well, what happens if I solve for x? I just get negative 8/3. Right? There it is. Okay. If I want to find the y-intercept, that's going to be where x is equal to 0. So we set x equal to 0 and solve for y. I get the equation 3y equals 8. If I solve for y, I just get 8/3. Okay. Okay, so write the inequality. Well, it's an inequality, so the first thing we want to ask ourselves is, what's going to be the direction of the inequality sign? I'm going to have y is what?
Plus.
Okay, it's going to be, am I shading above or below? Below, so it's going to be less than, am I including the boundary line?
Nope.
So I don't put in equals, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be y is less than mx plus b, and what's m from the slope triangle? I rise by -3 and I run by +1. So -3/1 is -3 times x. And then what's my y-intercept? There it is. So big. Okay. So what about this one? So this is the one, I think we went through this before, something just like this. So this guy's wants to save money to buy a video game. He's gonna work 2 jobs. It's babysitting for $6.40 an hour and doing yard work for $9 an hour. They tell us what the variables are. Look, they tell us that if B represents the number of hours he babysits, Y represents the number of hours he spends doing yard work. So there's B. Okay? So now we got to come up with, we got 2 unknowns, we got to come up with 2 equations or inequalities here to write a system, right? So here's the stuff we've got to be able to say with an equation then. Look, his parents said he can work no more than 27 hours to ensure his grades won't suffer. So how could I come up with an expression for the total amount of hours he's working? B represents hours babysitting and Y represents hours doing yard work. B plus Y, should be right. And how would I say no more than 27? There you go. Okay, now what about the other part? So he needs at least $204 and he's making $6.40 per hour babysitting and $9 per hour doing yard work. So what's an expression for the total amount that he's making? Okay, good. So the amount he makes has to be at least 204, so it has to be greater than or equal to 204. There's my system. Okay? What about this one? What happened to... Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So on this one, some people did this one, got right answers, but did this a really hard way, problems like this. Is this one where we want to use substitution? No, it's not. It's not. There's not an obvious, there's no variable up there. There's no variable with the coefficient of 1 or -1. Right? So I'm going to have to do work to solve for a variable up there, to isolate it. And there actually is one I could solve for here that would work. I could solve for y in the bottom equation and not have any fractions. But any other choice I made, I'd have fractions, right? So what should we do? Not substitution. I should do what? Elimination, right? We just want to multiply one or both equations by something so that I can cancel the x's or the y's, so I get opposite coefficients. So what should I multiply, or what could I multiply the top one by? Okay, if I multiply the top one by 2, if I distribute that all the way through, I'm going to get what? Negative 20x minus 6y equals negative 188. So if I multiply the top by 2, then what do I need to multiply the bottom by? Okay, and the goal here is I'm going to get the y's to cancel, isn't it? Right? So if I distribute a negative 3 all the way through that equation, I'm going to get positive 24x plus 6y equals positive 216. Okay, and then that's what we wanted, the y's go away, right? So when I add those up, negative 20x plus 24x is, and then negative 188 plus 216 is 28. So what's x?
So,
Okay, halfway there, now what?
so what?
Okay, plug it in and solve for y. So we get negative 8 times 7 minus 2y equals negative 72. Well, that's just negative 56 minus 2y equals negative 72. Last two steps to solve for y. Add 56. So negative 2y equals negative 16. So what's y? 8. Okay, and we end up with the ordered pair 7, 8. Now on a test I should check that. What would I do? Plug it back into both equations and see if it works, right? Okay, so then how about this one? Okay, what would I do on this one? Top one leave alone, bottom one do what? Multiply by 2, there you go. So I get 10x minus 10y equals negative 70. On the bottom I'm going to get negative 10x plus 10y equals negative 70. Look what happens. Those cancel. So what am I left with on the left of the equal sign? 0. On the right? No? Right? Okay, is that true or false? Now, if I'd gotten 0 equals 0, infinitely many, that would be true, right? Okay. Flip your desk around.